Hello and welcome back to Michelle Says Again. I'm Michelle. I am happy for you to be here and listen to what I have to say. These intros are always so awkward for me. I don't know what to say. Anyway, so today I'm going to jump into the Friday Sews hashtag. I've been seeing it a lot over the last few weeks, and what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start off with the one that everybody was doing last week, which is the Get to Know Friday Sews. So I'm a week behind on that, but I figured, if this is my first one, it's a great one to start with because it'll give you a little bit of information about me. So the Friday Sews hashtag was started by Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room, and I think it's a fun idea. You just kind of update people on what you've been doing for the last week. So I think I'm going to start participating in this. It sounds like a lot of fun. So today is about getting to know you, and Jen posted a list of 10 questions that I'm just going to answer here. And I'd love for you to participate in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are and anything that I have to share. Okay, so number one is, what is your name? All right, so my name is Michelle, but that's my middle name. I grew up in the South, which I'll get to in the second question, but it's not uncommon for people in the South to go by their middle names. So I didn't realize how unusual that was until I moved to the North, and people were so confused as to why I went by my middle name instead of my first name. My first name is Carmen. I was named after my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who I loved dearly and has long since left us. So I didn't like that name growing up. It just seemed, because the only Carmen that I knew in my entire life was my grandmother, it seemed like an old lady name. Meanwhile, Michelle is like, every place I've ever worked, every school I've ever been to, there's like 10 of us. So it's like, I always have to go by my full name. So at work, I just started with a new company in December, and there are 3 Michelles in my general group of people that I work with. So I am distinguished by my first name and last name, which I think is hysterical. The second question, where am I from? So where I'm from and where I live are 2 different things. My dad was an engineer in the oil industry as I was growing up. So we moved around quite a bit. I was born in Mississippi. We moved to many states. I think at this point I've lived in 9 different states, but moved, I think, 18 times in my life. So I was born in Mississippi. I moved around quite a bit: Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Michigan, back to Texas. I can't remember all of them, but basically I grew up in Louisiana. So we ended up there when I started 4th grade, and I went from 4th grade through college in Louisiana. And then I moved around a little bit on my own. After I graduated college, I lived in San Antonio and Oklahoma City and Tampa, Florida, and then up to Philadelphia. So I was in Philadelphia for the last 20-ish years, and just moved down to Miami in December. So I now live in Miami and consider that home, and I'm loving it so far. Other than the spring break craziness that's going on right now, which luckily I don't hang out at South Beach, so I haven't had to deal with any of that, but man, people are crazy. All right, question number 3. How long have you been sewing? So I started sewing in college. My major was, I had a merchandising major, or a business major with a merchandising concentration, because my plan was to be a buyer for a retail company, which I did ultimately do, and then switched over to the planning side, which is more financial and analytics, which is my jam. So I had to take a sewing class for my major, and I loved it. I took to it right away, and I made way more projects than were required for the class. I was working full-time while I was going to school full-time, so I worked in a retail store in the back office and customer service, and so I had to wear nice clothes. And because I went straight from school to work every day, I wore my work clothes to school. So I ended up making a bunch of skirts for my job, and I'll insert some pictures here back in the day when I had my short brown curly permed hair, and show you kind of, you know, some of the things that I was making. I still have a couple of things that I've made. I had a long duster style trench coat jacket that I made out of denim, and I used some kind of corally orange lace for the lapel that was from my mom. She had it since she was, you know, a teenager. So it was kind of, it was definitely vintage lace that I added onto the collar, which I thought was really cool. And I still have that jacket actually. So yeah, I was sewing a lot then, and then I graduated college and got a full-time job, and sewing kind of fell by the wayside. And I just picked it up again after 25 plus years in March of last year, in 2020. Once the shutdown happened, I was just eager to like have something creative to do. So I bought a new machine on Amazon and just started sewing again. So it had been a long time. I needed to I'm still working on updating my techniques and, you know, figuring out what I'm doing again. I consider myself a beginner again. Okay, question number 4 is, what are your machines? So as I mentioned, I bought a new machine on Amazon last year, and this is the one that I got. I figured I would start with something a little more affordable, and then if I really stuck to it and got into it and made it worth my while, that eventually I would upgrade. But this machine is actually pretty good. So I mean, maybe I'll upgrade at some point, but it's doing a really good job for me right now. And it is a Brother, don't laugh at me, but it's a Brother Project Runway limited edition machine. It has, I haven't used most of these stitches. I've really done the straight stitch, the zigzag stitch, and the buttonhole, but it threads very easily. The bobbin is super easy to put in. Threading the bobbin is easy. Everything about it is super, super easy. So I love it. The other machine that I have, I just bought this right before I moved from Philly, and it's a Janome Mod 8933 serger. And I haven't used it a ton yet, but I like it so far. I actually ordered it from Home Depot, believe it or not, because their pricing was like half of what I could find anywhere else. It is a discontinued machine, but I got it for a little over 200 bucks. And most other places that I found it, because it was rated very well when I was looking for sergers for beginners, it was rated very high. And so most of the places that I found it, if I could find it, were well over $400. And I found it at Home Depot for, I think, barely over 200. So I'm happy with that so far. I did have to, it comes pre-threaded. And of course I didn't read the directions first. So when one of the threads ran out and I needed to rethread it, I pulled all the spools off and then opened the manual to see how to thread it. And the first thing it said was, it comes pre-threaded so that you can tie your new thread to the old thread and just run it through. And I was like, of course. So I had to search far and wide to find, because the manual that comes with it is not clear at all. And I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, and it was not easy to follow. I found a YouTube video that just made it a breeze, but it took me, it was kind of buried. It didn't come up super easy, but that's probably my search terms. I was searching specifically for this model. When I finally ended up searching just for the Janome, then I found the one that I was looking for, and it's from, I want to say Abby Makes. If I'm wrong about that, I'll put the correct YouTube video at the bottom here, but she made it so easy, step by step, super clear and easy. And now that I know how to do it, it's not hard. I mean, of course the lower loop or thread is hard unless you've got one of those air threading things. But it's not it's not super hard. It's just you've got to concentrate and be very dainty with it. But now that I know how to do it, it's not difficult. Okay, number 5, self-taught or formal classes. So I've kind of already touched on that. I did have formal classes in college. It was 1 semester. And now I'm kind of self-teaching myself again. I'm not opposed to taking some classes. In fact, I have signed up for Craftsy, and I have, what's that other one that I haven't really started doing yet? I'll insert it at the bottom. I do have some resources that I can use, and I use YouTube all the time. So kind of a mix of both. Number 6, knits or wovens. So far, I've done a little of both. I do prefer wovens. I feel more comfortable with them. They're more stable. I have done a little bit with some double brushed poly, which is a knit, and I haven't had any issues there. I haven't tried anything with any like super slinky knits yet. A little, I don't feel comfortable enough with that yet. So for the time being, wovens. Plus I'm just more comfortable wearing wovens because they don't cling as much. So for now, wovens. Number 7, do you prefer the big 4 or indie patterns? I've kind of found things that I like from both. I do enjoy supporting the indie brands just because they're smaller businesses and they bring a more unique take on design, and many of them have really clear directions, and the benefit there is a lot of them have sew-alongs, and there's YouTube sew-alongs even if it's not from the brand, all over YouTube. So I do like, I kind of lean toward the indie, but I'm not opposed to the big 4. I found some patterns from the big 4 that I really have liked so far. Online or in-store shopping is question number 8. So this one is interesting because for everything else in my life, for many years, well over a decade, I shop for everything in my life 99% online. I just don't enjoy going into stores anymore like I did when I was a teenager or a young adult. I just don't enjoy the crowds. I don't enjoy, people seem to just be oblivious about how their presence interacts with other people, and they're just rude. So I have had great success shopping online, finding things that I enjoy. I do not return very much, so I do end up with stuff that I end up donating, but it's not a ton. I feel like I'm pretty good at picking out things online. With fabric, however, I do prefer shopping in store. As many others have said for this tag, just having the ability to feel the fabric, and because I am still a beginner and I don't know fabric that well, like I don't know descriptions, I can't imagine in my head from the description and the fabric content what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like. Now I have bought the majority of my fabric online just because things have been off and on closed, but the chances that I've had to buy in store, I do enjoy that experience more than the online shopping. Favorite sewing task is question number 9. As many people have said, cutting out fabric is definitely my least favorite. But my favorite is simple. It's just actually putting the fabric together and sewing and creating a seam and seeing the fabric come together as an actual item. I just really enjoy just pushing fabric through the sewing machine or the serger and connecting it, binding it together. I get a lot of joy out of that. It makes me very happy. Best advice for other sewers. So for me, I feel like just go for it. Like, don't be afraid to get started. Don't go overboard buying stuff until you really know what you need, just because somebody on YouTube had said, oh, I've used this and it's great. Until you're at a point where you know what you're doing, don't worry about buying a bunch of extra stuff. Just buy the basics, and buy like the best that you can afford. So like I said, I wanted an inexpensive machine, but I didn't buy the cheapest machine. I bought one that had good ratings. That wasn't, it was like, it was, I want to say $250, might not even been that much. So it's not a cheap machine, but it's not clearly, you know, one of the most expensive machines. Buy the best that you can afford or that you're willing to spend in materials and machines and all like threads and things that you need to get a basic garment done, but don't go overboard. You don't need a serger to start with. This machine actually has an overcast. I think probably most machines these days have an overcast stitch, which really does a pretty decent job. And I used that on like to finish my edges for quite some time before I ended up investing in the serger. So you don't have to go all out to get started. Just get started. Find some basics that are decent and just get started. Find some free patterns online. If you're following the Frugal Frocks hashtag, you'll see, honestly, if you start Googling free patterns, you're going to go down a rabbit hole that's going to take you hours to get out of. And you'll find some amazing patterns. Like, they're not just super basic. So I encourage you to just jump in and get started. That's my advice. And then the last question is, how did you find out about Friday Sews? I actually found out about it from a woman that I had done a hashtag So Curious question list a couple of weeks ago, and somebody that follows me had also done that hashtag, and she combined it with a Friday Sews. So it was Megan G Makes. So thank you, Megan. So I hadn't heard of Friday Sews until I saw her doing the hashtag that I had started on her channel as part of her Friday Sews. And I started Googling the hashtag Friday Sews and saw a bunch of people participating in that. And I thought, oh, that sounds like fun. So that's how I found out about it. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna, hopefully I can be consistent. I'm not super consistent with any of my videos these days just because I work full time and yeah, busy. What I'm wearing, I had actually done a video on this and it came out horrible, so I didn't post it. I'm gonna redo that one, but it's the Seamwork Beckett overalls. So I'll post a video about that once I have time to do it, hopefully this afternoon, and I'll post it probably Sunday. But I had made this as part of my work from home module sew along that Whitney from Tomcat Stitchery had started last fall. And I'm just now getting around to it just because of the move and everything. And just as a quick snippet, I do regret, although the fabrics look nice together, I don't think it's flattering on me that I did the bib in a print versus the bottoms in a solid. But I'll get more into that in the video. So anyway, thank you for joining me. If you're not already subscribed, please consider it if you like what I am bringing to the table. If you are already subscribed and returning, thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And check me out on Instagram. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later.